So today, we're going to dive into this really ancient text that makes a truly audacious claim about the nature of reality itself. It looks at the massive sweep of human history and asks this huge question. Is it all just one big random accident? Or is it a perfectly orchestrated masterpiece?
I mean, when you look at the world, right, or even just flip on the news, it's so easy to think it's all just chaos. It feels like we're watching this giant, unpredictable pileup of human egos, political strategies, and, just pure dumb luck. We like to think we're in the driver's seat, but when you really zoom out, history can look like one long, desperate chain reaction, with things just spinning completely out of control.
But the text we're looking at, from Isaiah chapters 44 and 45, basically says that this feeling of chaos is a total illusion. It gives us a radically different picture, that there's a single, sovereign creator who is directing the entire show, every single human event, from our most private, personal struggles all the way up to the rise and fall of entire empires.
Okay, so how does the text even begin to make a case that big? Well, it doesn't start with some grand philosophical proof. Instead, it starts with this incredibly sharp, witty, and almost satirical takedown of the stuff we ourselves create to find meaning and, to save ourselves.
The analysis kicks off with this picture of a blacksmith. He's over the coals, he's using all of his might, hammering a piece of metal into the shape of a god. But the author focuses on the cost of making this thing. The blacksmith gets hungry, his strength is failing, he hasn't had any water, and he's about to pass out. He is literally starving himself to build a god. And you can't help but see the parallel to our own hustle culture, right? Where we exhaust ourselves building things, our careers, our status, our wealth, hoping they'll save us, but the whole process just drains the life right out of us.
But the satire gets even more pointed with the next guy, a woodworker. Now this man, he's very careful. He meticulously plans everything out, he carves his design, he chops down this huge tree, and then he does something that the text presents as just darkly hilarious.
So get this. With one half of that exact same tree, he builds a fire to warm himself up and cook his dinner. He looks at the fire and he's like, aha, I'm warm. I've seen the flames. He completely gets its natural everyday purpose. But then, with the leftover wood from the very same log, he carves a little statue, falls on his face, and prays to it saying, "Deliver me, for you are my God." The disconnect there is it's staggering.
The text basically says this comes from a kind of deep, spiritual blindness. The man is so desperate for a God that he can see and control that he never stops to ask the most blindingly obvious question. And this all leads to this haunting challenge that the text throws out to every single one of us. Is there not a lie in my right hand? What leftover wood, what job, what bank account, what relationship are you clinging to right now, begging it to deliver you?
So after just dismantling the whole idea that human-made things have any real power, the text zooms way out, dramatically. It moves from this little personal workshop right onto the global stage to show what real power looks like, by dropping a total historical bombshell.
Right here, the text does something that's pretty much unheard of. It claims to predict the geopolitical future by naming a specific guy, Cyrus, about 150 years before he was even born. Now, to put that into perspective, that would be like someone in the late 1800s writing down the exact foreign policy decisions of a specific world leader living today. It's that precise.
This about a man who doesn't even exist yet. Of Cyrus, he is my shepherd, and he shall perform all my pleasure, saying to Jerusalem, you shall be built, and to the temple, your foundation shall be laid. It's a really specific mission for a future king, right? To rebuild a city and its temple. It's meant to show what the text claims is the creator's absolute foresight.
And here is the absolute kicker. This writer calls the future pagan king his anointed, which is this sacred title that actually means his Messiah. Now, Cyrus had zero connection to Israel's God. He was a foreign emperor. By naming this total outsider as his chosen tool, the creator is basically showing he has absolute sovereign control over the entire global chessboard and can direct the hearts of kings to do what he wants, even kings who don't have a clue who he is.
Okay, but this claim of total control brings up a huge, obvious problem. If the creator is moving empires around like pieces on a board to get what he wants, what about all the bad stuff? What about the collateral damage? Does he control that too?
The text doesn't shy away from this at all. In fact, it confronts it head-on, with one of its most provocative lines. The Creator says, "I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create calamity. I, the Lord, do all these things." Now that phrase, create calamity,
Yeah, that can make you pretty uncomfortable. Does that mean God is the author of evil?
Well, to get it, you have to look at the language in its context. The word used for a calamity here doesn't mean moral evil, like lying or murder. What it's referring to is hardship and judgment, the difficult consequences that ripple out through history. The argument here is that while the Creator doesn't author wickedness itself, He is sovereign over the fallout, and He uses even the darkest chapters of history to move His ultimate good plan forward.
And to explain this whole relationship, the text gives us this powerful analogy: the potter and the clay. It asks, shall the clay say to the hands that are actively shaping it, "Hey, what are you making?" The whole point is about perspective. A lump of clay, while it's being pressed and pulled and spun around, has no way of seeing the final, beautiful thing the potter has in mind. It doesn't have the viewpoint or the right to question the artist's methods.
So all this brings us to the final, widest possible view. We've seen the argument up close, in a little workshop, and on a global scale with a foreign king. Now the text zooms out one last time to show us the ultimate purpose behind all of it, and it expands its focus from just one nation to the entire world.
The text draws this massive, stark contrast. It claims that people who trust in their own leftover wood, the things they've built for their own security, well, at the end of the day, just face confusion. But those who trust in the maker of it all will find what the text calls an everlasting salvation, and will never be put to shame. And based on that reality, the text issues this sweeping, universal invitation that is just so radically inclusive for an ancient document. It's a call that goes way beyond its original audience, and it says, "Look to me and be saved, all you ends of the earth." It is a completely open invitation to absolutely everyone.
So what's the guarantee? Well, the text says the Creator swears by the only authority He possibly can, Himself, that an ultimate recognition of reality is coming. It paints this picture of a day when every single knee will bow and every tongue will acknowledge that true righteousness and strength can only be found in Him. So at the end of the day, this ancient text really challenges our modern ideas of being in control. It forces us to ask, when things feel chaotic, where do we look for our strength? Is it in something we carved for ourselves, or in the one who made heaven and earth? And that leaves us with one final kind of mind-bending thought. The text describes a creator using a king who was completely unaware he was being used to shape history. So if the author of history can work through people who have no idea they're even part of the plan, is it possible that you, right now, are playing a crucial role in a grander masterpiece, completely unaware of the potter's hands guiding your life?